Great. So welcome everyone to the NYU Stern Executive MBA Program Q&A with Professor Julian Yeo. Thanks for joining us. We're thrilled to have Professor Yeo with us and excited for him to share the insights into the EMBA learning experience. In the audience, we have people from all different parts of their journey. So prospective candidates just starting out, exploring MBA, to those that have even been admitted and enrolled for some of our future classes. As way of introduction, my name is Heather McDaniel. I am an associate director with the Executive MBA admissions team. I've been with the admissions team for a little over 5 years. And what I most enjoy about working with executive MBA and admissions is really getting to meet interesting individuals and helping on the journey to higher education. So hope to be able to engage with many of you joining tonight and helping you on that journey. So we're going to have a moderated Q&A. After, I will open it up to the audience for questions. So you can use the Q&A feature to ask questions during this session, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. As I mentioned, the session is being recorded. And to go ahead and kick us off, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Professor Julian Yeo. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. To start, please take a moment and introduce yourself and tell us what you teach here at NYU Stern.
Hi, my name is Julian Yeo. I'm Professor of Accounting here at NYU. I teach in the EMBA New York program, Principle of Financial Accounting, which is a core course as part of your first semester. Then I also teach an elective for core financial statement analysis as part of our EMBA DC program. Apart from those courses, I teach modeling financial statements, managerial accounting, accounting-based valuation to our MBAs. I've been with Stern since 2011.
Great. And in your opinion, what would you say makes NYU Stern and the Executive MBA program unique?
Heather, that's a great question. I think because of the location where we are, we do attract students who are best in their field. To take the current class that I just taught, I just finished teaching Principle of Financial Accounting to our New York group. Amongst them, we have managing partners in private equity, asset management. We have lots of CPAs who are taking core accounting, the controllers or CFO. But students with PhD in chemistry, different field. We have surgeons, but we also have students who are music DJ, artists, author, podcasters, managing director of Christie's. And I always think that as a collective group, we're much better than individuals. And apart from learning from the professors, they do learn from each other.
Yeah, that's something we always highlight in the admissions process is such a diverse cohort with people from so many different industries and backgrounds. So it's incredible how much they can learn from their classmates, not just the curriculum. So thanks for sharing. So we often get questions, what's the learning experience like? How would you summarize NYU Stern's approach to teaching?
I suppose I should start with my approach to teaching. I always, in designing a course, I start with what skill sets I hope the students would accomplish by the end of the semester. Taking core financial accounting, Principle of Financial Accounting as an example, a lot of our students are exposed to financial statements as their day-to-day operations, work operations, but they sort of lack the foundations. Perhaps they didn't do business as in their undergraduate degree. So part of my goal is to demystify steps that accountant would take in preparing these statements. Part of the skill set I hope they would accomplish is they would understand how their action would impact the company's statements, and so knowing that the reported numbers on the statements are not just a function of what really goes on, but very much a function of accounting choices that management made. So having those skill sets in mind, then I try to structure class exercises or assessments that they can relate to. Therefore, able to grasp the concepts and internalize it. I'll give you an example. In Principle of Financial Accounting, we play Monopoly in class. We divide the whole class into two teams. They are required to journalize all the transactions that we play and prepare balance sheet and income statement. So in
Yeah,
the
that's really,
process,
yeah, that's very interesting and sounds fun too.
oh, nice. That's what we hope to do. So in the process of doing so, they really understood how their action would impact the company statements.
That's great, and a great way to look at it holistically as well. So we offer the program in New York and in DC. The primary difference between the two being the schedule. With New York meeting every other week on Fridays and Saturdays, full days on Fridays and Saturdays, and DC meeting once a month, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So do you have any thoughts on kind of the schedule and how this works out for students?
The fact that you only come to school every alternate Fridays and Saturdays, you don't feel like all of your weekends are lost for the next 2 years while in the program. And for students who are doing the DC program sort of once a month, that's much more tolerable than losing all your weekends. I think that is a really nice schedule for professionals who are working full time. That has worked out very well for our students, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's great. And what are some examples of, in your class, what would they be doing in between their class weekends?
In between class weekends, so to make sure that students are on top of the materials, we have mini quizzes that they would need to complete before the next class. And this is, I did mention that I have a few CPAs in my class taking introductory accounting. What is incredibly interesting this past semester is that those CPAs voluntarily conduct review sessions on class outside of my class time. And what's great about learning from each other is that you're not only hearing it from my perspective, but also from others' perspective, and that really enriches the learning experience.
Yeah, it's great to hear how supportive classmates are, and the fact that they're willing to hold those study sessions in between class weekends to make sure everyone else is learning the material as well. So that kind of lends itself nicely to my next question. We think executive MBA students are phenomenal and really impressive. What do you find distinctive about executive MBA students?
In a classroom setting, I always enjoy the discussion because everyone because of the requirement as part of the executive MBA, they do need to have a certain number of years of work experience. They really bring that work experience to the class discussion. So compared to an MBA class where perhaps the work experience is not as extensive, you are learning or hear about what other people are going through at their work. That would be the distinctive feature of an executive MBA program versus other programs.
Yeah, and as Professor was mentioning, the requirement being a minimum of 6 years work experience and a bachelor's degree. So they are coming in with a wealth of experience. And I would say work experience generally averages out around 13 to 14 years of experience. So it really does run a broad spectrum. So you've been teaching in the executive MBA program for a while. Do you have a particular moment from a class that's most memorable of executive MBA students?
If you know me, it's very difficult to pick a favorite, but I'll just cite a recent example. As part of our class end of semester class celebration, we all went out, the whole class and I all went out, and we found ourselves at an Indian Mexican fusion taco place. Now that restaurant is pretty much a hole in the wall restaurant. There's no bathroom. The food was incredibly spicy and temperature was rather warm that evening. We were sweating profusely, but we sat around for the entire 2 hours and we were laughing away. It's just such a good group to be around.
Yeah, that's great that you make the time to spend with the students outside of the classroom and really engage with people just beyond the classroom setting, and that you're able to engage. So what would you say, the responsiveness and engagement of faculty with executive MBA students is that pretty typical for faculty?
Oh yeah, I think that's very typical at Stern. We don't just want to get to know you, and in a class setting, especially in a class, this past semester, a class of 60, we would really like to hear about what really goes on at a personal level, what goes on at work and personal aspiration. And the only way to find out is being able to spend time outside of the classroom. So whenever we are invited to events, we willingly participate because we genuinely enjoy our time together with our EMBA students.
Great. And would you say that's even the case like with alumni? So even once students graduate, how do you stay engaged with the students post-graduation?
They do reach out now and then, and I do try to make it to a lot of social events, and yeah, been lucky in that in that aspect.
That's great. I think that speaks volumes of, the how much time and dedication that you're willing to give and offer to students and alumni. So that's great. So we enticed a number of people here tonight by sharing that you have a passion outside of teaching. And I'm sure you have many passions outside of teaching. But can you share with the audience what that passion that you've shared with so many others, and how did that come to be?
I think the passion that you're referring to might be my Instagram account. I have an Instagram account where I post all the food photos of what I cook. That came about, this got to be a while now, at least 8, 9, or 10 years ago. I was spending way too much money at restaurants, so as part of New Year's resolution, I thought I would cook more at home. And here's when I teach accounting, I need a system that holds my action accountable, just like we hold management accountable in delivering earnings per share. I hold myself accountable to post 500 food photos on Instagram to make it habitual so that I will cook more at home. And that's how it started, and somehow it sort of took a life of its own, and yeah, now many years later.
It's also really interesting that you're able to tie it into the academic side and the accounting and making sense of that. Do you openly share with students about your Instagram account, and or do they just find you organically?
Initially, I didn't talk about it, but I think after that feature on Wall Street Journal was sort of cat is out of the bag, and yes, students do one way or another found out. So
It's great to see that our faculty and professors have lives outside of just teaching.
I get a lot of joy from teaching, but I would like to think that I find joy in many other things too.
Great. So audience, please feel free, like I said, to use the Q&A feature. We're leaving tonight, given that we have dedicated time with faculty to answer questions specific to the learning experience. So if you have questions about the learning experience, feel free to post them in the Q&A. I will get to them as we can, but I'm going to keep asking just a few questions that we've had submitted beforehand. So, a lot of students, and as you alluded to, are coming in not necessarily having experience in some of the quantitative, especially the quantitative rigorous courses. They may not be finance professionals or accounting professionals. They may not have taken business courses in undergrad. We do bring in people from all different, like I said, backgrounds and industries. So how do you manage this from a teaching perspective and help kind of, as you mentioned, demystify the finance and quant heavy courses?
So at the start of semester, we always make that an acknowledgement that people do have diverse exposure to accounting and background in accounting. And so that we promise that we will pretty much take it slower at the start, just so that we all speak the same language. But once everyone is on board, we can accelerate. And with that in mind, each class, we sort of set the foundation. We sort of set the scene, what are essential, what are the building blocks. Then we try to incorporate the more advanced concept and ask what if scenarios, or layer more advanced knowledge, so that students with some exposure do find it challenging as well. And that has been the right mix for this program, and students seem to respond well. And here's where the study groups are so important, because after the lecture, the study group will meet with each other, and they all have their own strength. Those who are in accounting and finance background would help out others with non-accounting and finance background. And there are other courses where others do have strength over quantitative subjects. So
yeah, and absolutely. I feel, and we put people, the students, in study groups, and we try to balance out the different skill sets, just based on what we know about them prior to starting the program. So as you mentioned, pairing people who may be marketing professionals with finance or operations, so that they can cross-pollinate to some extent and learn from each other and support each other. So it's good to see that does happen within the program and within the learning. And good to know that you really do work with those students to help get everybody on up to that level and make it a beneficial learning environment for everybody that's involved. So a question that we've had come in: NYU is certainly known for finance, for accounting. Are you able to speak, and I know your expertise is also within that area, are you able to speak to kind of the holistic learning approach, and the experience from a marketing and operations standpoint, learning just putting all the pieces together and learning the foundations? How is that handled at Stern?
I guess as part of the MBA curriculum is you really need to be exposed to all aspects of the business. And what EMBA does so well is, in designing the curriculum, they do strike a balance so that all aspects of business, marketing, operations, and the latest innovation in each of those fields is part of that is part of the EMBA curriculum. So kudos to our curriculum team that design what belongs to the EMBA, how it will work for the EMBA program.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, so in the first year of the program, students are completing that core curriculum. So it is the foundations of business, and then in year 2, they are able to tailor the learning a lot more to suit their needs or their interests with the electives. So another question that we've had come in is, would love to learn a little bit more about the type of coursework. Some courses I know might be a little bit more assignment-based, test-based, whereas others might be more group projects. Are you able to speak to what the coursework across many of the courses could look like? And then specifically with accounting, what does that look like?
I can also, for accounting, here again tie back to what skill sets we would like our students to accomplish. So they sort of, each meeting blocks that we have before the next meeting blocks, sort of mini tests, multiple choice questions, short numerical questions, just so that we make sure that students are on top of the materials. In terms of the bigger assignments, so I mentioned playing Monopoly, so prepare the balance sheet and income statement. That's the first assignment. at the end of the semester, we want to make sure that students can actually read a set of financial statements. So the second assignment is all about reading, be able to extract information and analyze information from a set of financial statements. Then you have the midterm exam to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And perhaps, and in this case, I also have a final exam, since it is a 10-week course and there's 30 hours of materials that the one we would like to make sure students do walk away with the learning objectives that we have set aside, set up for the course. That is pretty standard, I guess, with your exams and assignments, and depends on the type of courses you may have. Some that is heavier on the exam and some that are heavier on the assessment. But I think in general, the exam component is no more than 50%, but don't quote me on this.
For sure. We won't put anything in writing, like I said. So we keep our class sizes intentionally relatively small. So with New York, it's about 65 students per cohort, which is a January and an August start term. And then in DC, it's usually about 35 to 45 students with just an August intake. Is there an advantage to having a smaller cohort? And, how does this work for you from a teaching standpoint? And what's a benefit to you for having smaller cohort sizes?
When I went through the program, I'm dating myself, and my class used to be a class of 300 or 400, and that in that setting where the professor is pretty much having a monologue with the students, there's really no interactions. When the class size is relatively small, what we really enjoy is we get to hear from a lot of our students, and what we're discussing, we get lots of input, and we are getting more balanced view of topics that we're discussing. So I have always taught with class size 40 to 60, and I can't think of any other way to teach, because it's an interactive forum where we get to hear from each other.
That's great. And I mean, it also really allows the cohort to build a close connection as well. So like I said, we have many in the audience from all different spectrums of their exploration, from prospect, just learning about MBAs, all the way to admitted and enrolled. How would you recommend candidates prepare for the coursework? And many of our candidates are also many years removed from being in school. What can they do to prepare to being back in that classroom setting and being prepared for the coursework?
I think just have a willingness to learn. That's all it takes. Because when you're surrounded with people who are perhaps no more than you in certain field and better than you, being willing to learn, you're really going to absorb those knowledge. And here's another thing, just be willing to give as well, because the exchange of knowledge is why we do this postgraduate, why a lot of our students are doing this postgraduate program. So just having a positive attitude of willing to learn.
Yeah, that's great. And like I said, I want to be mindful, so we're gonna go ahead and start to wrap up. We've had a lot of questions come through, some specific to certain individuals. So for those individuals, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to our team or schedule time to chat with us. We're happy to do so. But to wrap up with one final question, what advice would you give to prospective candidates, those getting ready to enroll? What will make them successful in the program?
Just show up. I think we'll take care of the rest. You'll find that the admission team, the admin team, the admission team, the admin team, and all the professors are there to help you.
Yeah.
To make sure that you'll be successful.
like I said, we're happy to help. And I will say, based on conversations with faculty, you guys are very willing to work with the students and engage with them and ensure that they're also successful. So we appreciate all of your support and seeing them through their journey. So like I said, we've had tons of great questions that have come through, and I really thank everyone for the engagement. Again, we reserve the time really to hear more about the learning experience in the Executive MBA program. So any questions that were specific to a certain individual or about an application process or career services, anything like that, please reach out to our team. Our contact information is on the website, so you can either call our team or email our office. We're happy to help. Thank you to Professor Yeo. Really appreciate you joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, so I really appreciate you taking time to join us and to speak with prospects and admitted students. You'll see some of those here today at our classes in January and August. So thank you so much. I hope that this has been a great learning experience for everyone that's joined, being able to learn more about the learning experience at NYU Stern and in the Executive MBA program. For those who may have already submitted a pre-assessment, you do also have the opportunity to sit in to do a class visit to experience the class setting, the learning environment firsthand. So if you haven't done so already, submit a pre-assessment to join us for a class visit. So again, thanks to all of those that have joined. Feel free, please reach out to our team if we can be of any help. We're happy to do so. And thank you again, Professor, for joining us. So take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.